I want to share with you this airplane that you see on takeoff roll now, the B-25 Mitchell bomber. Just listen to the sound of these Curtiss Wright engines as he comes up on them. How many of you remember the date, December 7th, 1941? Let's see a show of hands if you know what's significant about that date. Now look around you. You won't see many hands up. December 7th, 1941 was a surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. President Roosevelt ordered the military to devise a plan on that very day to strike the heart of Japan immediately following that attack. At that time, a really unique plan came up. They decided that they would put an aircraft on board an aircraft carrier, namely the B-25. And the B-25 would find its way all the way to Japan, nearly right off the coast. And then 80 brave men, known simply as the Doolittle Raiders, launched from the pitching deck of the Hornet. It struck the very heart of the country that attacked us on December 7th, 1941. It was payback for Pearl Harbor. 16 aircraft, just like the one you'll soon see, made that triumphant attack in the heart of Japan. Now, strategically, it wasn't all that great. But the morale that it gave, the morale boost that it gave to the American people, was something that lives on in the hearts and the minds of those that lived through that tumultuous time, even to this day. You have to think back to World War II and remember that the news from the Pacific was only defeat after defeat. The morale of the American public was truly at one of the lowest points it had ever been. So now rewind to that fateful day when those 80 brave men came low in, about 50 feet off the deck of the waters of the coast of Japan, and they performed this very maneuver called the Doolittle Pop-Up Raid. Watch now as Larry Kelley pops up with Panchito, opens the bomb bay, and delivers the strike, known as the Doolittle Raid. The original plan was to sail within 300 miles of Japan and launch that raid, but the task force was actually spotted about 650 miles out, and the decision was then made to launch early, knowing that the crews might not have enough fuel after bombing Japan to reach their designated fueling and refueling stations in China. No airplanes or crew were lost as targets in or near Tokyo, Yokohama, or any of the sites that were bombed. One B-25, experiencing excessive fuel consumption, turned north after dropping its bombs and landed in Russia, where the crews were then interned. But finding a favorable tailwind, the other 15 B-25s all made it into China. But now at night, and during a strong storm, unable to find the airfield, many of the crews, in fact all of them that made it, either ditched or bailed out. And when you talk to the only surviving Doolittle Tokyo Raider left today, retired Lieutenant Dick Cole, who's now a whopping 101 years old, he'll tell you when he sat on the edge of the bailout hatch of the B-25 and he looked down, the only thing he said was, "My God, it was dark." But all of those men, all of those brave 80 Doolittle Tokyo Raiders did something for this country that all of the folks who were alive back then will never forget. The Doolittle Tokyo Raid, one of the most famous missions of World War II, a mission that really gave Americans hope that they could defeat the forces of evil that were at play during that particular time in history. And the B-25, with its gull wing, that little bent wing on it, became one of the hallmarks of North American aviation. Look at it now with the bomb bay doors open. Now you and I see a big shiny silver airplane, but I want to point something out to you. If you look down at that F-22 sitting over there, you look at the B-25 and you See the 5th generation fighter of the United States Air Force. Look at the bomber right now that's in the sky, the B-25. I want to put this into perspective. By the end of World War II, just a few years after that raid, an airplane called the Sky Raider could actually carry more bombs than not only the B-25, but also that of the heavy bomber, the B-17 of that war. The advances that we have made in aerospace are just staggering at this time. The B-25 could only carry around 3,000 pounds of bombs, but it had a full crew, and every one of those crew members said, "Put me in, coach, put me in. I know that I have less than the chance of winning a coin toss and surviving this mission, but put me in." All of those crew members who flew the bombers of World War II truly were experiencing hell on earth. They were shot at. They had to survive the flak attacks. And they continued to sign up for those all-volunteer missions like the Doolittle Tokyo Raid. Really gives you pride in the past and faith in the future. Larry Kelley continues to operate this particular aircraft from his home there in Mardella Springs, Maryland. The airplane is kept in a hangar in Georgetown, Delaware, just across the bridge here, not very far. If you'd like to volunteer with the organization that helps maintain this airplane, the Delaware Museum of Aviation, they would love to have you over there in Georgetown, Delaware. Just go over there and sign up. Tell them you want to help. The B-25, 16 forward-firing guns, served in a variety of roles, including later in the war as a strafing platform, much like the A-10 Warthog does today. The B-25, with all of those guns in front, really packed a punch when it would come in low for a strafing run. Watch now and listen to the sound of the big Curtiss Wright engines. And the wind over the wings of the all-polished B-25 Mitchell. 2 Wright R-2600. 14 cylinders of thunder. Just listen to this. April 18th, 1942, the date of that brave Doolittle Tokyo Raid, led by Jimmy Doolittle, one of the famed aviators of the United States, became the mission that truly the B-25 is most known for. But the B-25 continued on to serve as a multi-engine trainer later after the war. The J model that you see flying today, painted up like the original Panchito, was actually a TB-25 that served as a trainer after the war. Later became a mosquito sprayer down in Florida. Now, can you imagine being out in the field and seeing this thing sprayed for mosquitoes? But that's why it's still here today. In 1986, the famous Tom Riley, a warbird restoration guy, restored this airplane, and Larry Kelley and his team continue to operate it today. Here is your chance to take home a picture of Panchito as Larry rocks it up on the wing. You know, nearly 11,000 B-25s were built during World War II. Approximately only 30 of those 11,000 survive today, and only about 25 of them fly regularly. Larry Kelley and Panchito have earned their place in history themselves, becoming one of the most heavily campaigned B-25s in the air show scene today. Larry believes if you have an airplane like this, you need to share it. And I can't thank that man enough. Over the years, he has carried our warbird radio equipment in the back of Panchito a number of times. It's really helped us out a lot. We tell the stories of our airmen past and present every single day from our studios in Washington, D.C. We stream continuously 24/7, and Larry Kelley, one of the guys that's helped us out the most. Here he comes from the right. Larry Kelley and Panchito, the B-25, made famous by the Doolittle Tokyo Raid. Listen now and enjoy this last pass. hope you go home today, and to all the young people here, do me a favor. Don't be ignorant about the history of this great nation of ours. Go home, study up, and read something about the new little Tokyo Raiders. It seems like nearly 100 years ago when that happened. It was almost, well, it was well over 70 years ago. But go home and read these stories of these brave men. I think what you will find is that many of them who were near your age are going through the same things that you're going through right now. They wanted to be at home with their girlfriends. They didn't want to be over there fighting a war, but they did it. And they saved the world. Go home and read some stories of some real American heroes tonight, won't you? Read up on the Doolittle Raiders. You'll be glad you did. Don't be afraid to learn the history. We don't have the time to teach it in schools anymore, but use this today to go home and learn something. I'm telling you, you will be staggered by the history lessons that you can learn from some of our brave airmen, past and present. Larry Kelley and Panchito now making their way back down for a soft featherbed landing in the B-25. It's soon to come. We're going to see an airplane that, well, has earned its place in the history books as well. I'm talking about the de Havilland Vampire. It's almost Halloween, right? Want to see a vampire fly? We're going to. Just a few moments. There's Larry rounded out in the B-25 down there. Touchdown right there. See little puffs of smoke. You know what it cost to change the brakes on a B-25? Any guesses? It's in excess of $15,000. That's why Larry's just going to keep rolling. You don't go down to the brake store to get brakes for a B-25. Nope. Got to find them in a barn. They don't make the parts anymore. So he's just going to roll on down the runway here and not try to tap those brakes. That's for tires and brakes, about 15 grand, I think. You want to know any guesses on the oil consumption?